Jumping from star to star, it's all I do. Looking for you, and I know that you are out there looking for me too. Got my best fit on, we're gonna have some fun tonight. Are you ready for a fight? Bring on the wrecking machine, setting your dreams of heaven on fire. Bring on the wrecking machine. Bring on the wrecking machine. Gonna ignite your every desire. Bring on the wrecking machine. For every city you burn, I'm gonna build one higher. Target locked, guns are hot. Full speed ahead. Bang, bang, you're dead. You may think you have a shot to take me down. Victory's mine instead. Got my best fit on, we're gonna have some fun tonight. Are you ready for a fight?
Walk to the dance floor! We got a party going on! Overheat your feet! We're gonna rock their shit!
Bring on the wrecking machine, setting your dreams of heaven on fire.
As we go a little something like this.
Harden the fuck up! First off, let me make a short introduction. I'm the Space 5-0, keeping E from destruction. Guard is the name, lead master of the game. Top dog in the Game Master Hall of Fame. I'm chilling at my desk with two girls and one pickup. Sipping champagne, reading mails, checking what's up. It's spamming scumbags, disturbing the peace. Whoop whoop, it's the sound of the space police. Every day is a fight, there's no room for bloopers. Bugs coming at us like in Starship Troopers. We help when we can, every child, every man. Tweet the boogeyman to a permanent ban. We're CCP, we march on fearlessly. Excellent is what we strive to be. If you're going to follow us to the top, harden the fuck up. We're CCP, we march on fearlessly. Excellent is what we strive to be. If you're going to follow us to the top, harden the fuck up.
You best watch out, bitch! If you're an expert, this camera gun will gank you in the
CCP, we march on fearlessly. Excellent is what we strive to be. If you're going to follow us to the top, harden the fuck up. We're CCP, we march on fearlessly. Excellent is what we strive to be. If you're going to follow us to the top, harden the fuck up. We're CCP, we march on fearlessly. Excellent is what we strive to be. If you're going to follow us to the top, harden the fuck up. We're CCP, we march on fearlessly. Excellent is what we strive to be. If you're going to follow us to the top, harden the fuck up. Yo, I'm back, harden the fuck up by glory and fame. 300,000 YouTube views to my name. In this game, I'm the chief executive officer of rap. This line was supposed to rhyme too, but it's a tart. It's a new year, and I've gotten much richer than last year. Now my music and wallet weigh a ton and a half, and I'm back for you to worship like a golden calf. All the dough I made from my YouTube video was enough to buy a jet and fly my food to Mexico. Arriba, arriba, you'll find us at the bar. I won't be hard to spot cause I'm the motherfucking star. Keep clicking, money rolling. Keep clicking, money rolling. Park till you die, have a drink, let me buy. Keep the party flying high, throw your hands to the sky. I got my own pool and a bar in the tropics, so philanthropic brought the whole crew down, the whole CCP familia, even Frankie from Sicilia. We chill in the sun, drinking stuff, looking bub. We gonna party like it's 2007 down in sweet sunny heaven. Impossible is nada when I'm smashed like a piñata with the piña colada armada. Keep clicking, money rolling. Keep clicking, money rolling. Park wide till you die, have a drink, let me buy. Keep the party flying high, throw your hands to the sky. Keep clicking, money rolling. Keep clicking, money rolling.
God, I am the ghost of your hip hop past, the one that told you this was not gonna last. I was the one who warned you of the booze, to do things right, to hold your assets tight. My friend, you must have known this would end. However high you fly, you'll always have to land. The tube sucker you win with all their internet dough, and your once epic win is now an all-time low. Beholders say
There's still no audio.
I think there's audio now.
Ah, there it is.
All right, sorry about that. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the number one show to air every Sunday at this time exactly. It's time for Between Two Keepstars, and I hope everyone remembered to always bubble wrap their Keepstars. Today is going to be kind of a different show because we actually have a sponsor for today's show, as well as a small little announcement. But before I make that, I would like to give a special shout out to our sponsor, the Jeff Rader Relationship Counseling Services. Do you have problems with your significant other? Well, don't worry. The Jeff Rader Relationship Counseling Services is the official sponsor for this episode, and they can help you. And they can help you fix your relationship. Hell, if they're able to manage the relationship between Jeff Rader and Grath, I'm pretty sure they can do anything. So yeah, how's everyone doing this week? A lot has happened
Are
this
you
week.
okay? I mean, why did a relationship counseling group reach out to you to be their sponsor?
Listen, okay, it's a joke.
Are you okay?
Oh my god! See, this is what happened.
Do you need help?
All right, moving on.
Oh, okay.
So for the announcement today, we've got one big announcement which actually was cut off in the audio, which is Big Pepe. Was that Ish has decided to take a step back and from hosting, so we have a new host. Welcome, Spicy McKinney, Spicy McNicey, who pretty much comes on every Sunday anyway, so might as well give him the spot.
Hello. Glad to be here. I'm not gonna show my feet. I will DM you later, Wally, and we can have a little powwow and DMs. You know what I mean? Down on them DMs. All right.
So here today we actually have a couple of guests. We've got, of course, NemX, BJK, Carmen Gel, and Luke. Carmen, who's actually just muted. He'll probably be back later. But yeah, say hi, guys.
What's going on?
Hi, friends.
Oh, and also Luke. Sorry.
I have been instructed to show my feet or I'm fired by who I am assuming is Redline. Yeah.
No one listens to him anyways.
I know, I'm about to say, like, he was racist earlier in chat, so, like, God.
Are we canceling him?
Canceling. He is
Nice.
canceled officially.
About time.
You know, I fucking... Redline is officially canceled.
So is it canceled like Twitter canceled, or canceled as in exploding Fortizars?
Well, so if you guys didn't know, Pittsburgh actually took over all of PL leadership. He is now the founder of PL, right? Like, nuked everybody out of that position. He is now the founder of PL. So the timer is ticking on Pandemic Legion. Okay, give it about 3 more weeks, and Pandemic Legion's going to implode due to something.
Well, Pitts is there, so might take a while. But
Yeah,
probably
he stole the Moloch and he stole the leadership of PL. So, like,
Oh, is he the guy that got the Moloch?
yeah.
And he stole our hearts.
I mean, he owes us some money for that shit, I think. But yeah,
Want to buy
What a
Moloch
guy.
APC?
what a guy!
Oh goodness.
Sorry, I was muted for a minute there. I was like, I'm back.
Yeah, Carmen doesn't like us.
I was telling an interesting story to some people from my alliance on Mumble.
To be fair, we all, I mean, at least I know I talk shit a lot, so it would make sense if he didn't like me.
I like you.
Aw.
All right, so
I know that I talk a lot of shit, right? But genuinely, it's a game on the internet. Like, I don't have any like. There's very, very few people that have any kind of real ill will towards at all. You know, like it's a game. Like,
Wait.
I think a total of all people in Eve that I've ever met, I've only like considered 3 or 4 of them that I would hate in real life, like absolutely, like disgustedly hate. You know what I mean?
Wait.
The only ones that I have like any kind of real issue with are ones that I have heard things about that they have like genuine, like abominable reputations, like in real life kind of thing.
Wait,
Like,
Carmen,
in the game, doesn't fucking matter. I don't care. It's a game.
Wait, Carmen, are you saying that this is a game and that we should all have fun and then at the end of the day realize that it's just a fucking game?
Yes,
Blasphemy.
that's exactly why I'm saying.
What?
Well, I mean, for a lot of people RMT, so it's not just a game, but like whatever.
Damn.
But no, so yeah,
A
I think
lot
like
of people
my
are
my
RMT,
top
that's what you're saying.
one. I don't know if
You're
you guys
saying a lot of
remember.
people are RMT.
Not a lot. So I mean, it depends, right? Like it depends on your position, depends on what you do, right? But there's a lot of assumptions that people RMT this, that, and the other, right? But like there's some truths to people RMTing. You know what I mean? Like
I would say, based on what I know, probably out of all of the nullsec alliances that are in the game, like the big ones, probably about 50% of the like alliance leaders of big nullsec alliances are RMTing.
yeah, of course, I would say
I
I
have
would.
no proof of this. I have like no thing that I can tell you about it. It's just things that I've heard and hearsay and like little rumors and stuff. But like that seems to be like from what I've heard at least, that seems to be about the level of it. It's about 50% of like the nullsec alliance leaders.
I mean, I
How did we
could
get
care
onto
less
an
about
RMT
it.
conversation?
I was about
We were just
So they just
talking
come
about
back and I'm like,
stuff.
how have we got to this as the
Like-
first topic?
like guys, like frats literally like members of frat are literally right here, and all you're doing is talking about RMT.
Your
I'm not naming names, bro. I don't get shanked.
Yeah, nobody's naming names here. We're all just talking about people. However, if anybody sees Mr. Toucher in game ever again, let me know. I'm gonna go camp him.
Speaking of RMT, where is Cable? I ain't seen him for ages.
He plays Tarkov. We played Tarkov together, actually.
Right, so he's like conveniently not playing the game after all these massive fucking like leaks have made
he was
about
informed
him
like
RMTing.
last week, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he's like laying low on like Discord and like fucking shows and
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
Like yeah, popped his head up like nowhere after that happened, man. Fucking
I mean, who cares? I mean, like he's playing Tarkov. Like he's not. Whatever.
I
fucking.
feel like now would be a great time to go back to the sponsor of the show. Because there's definitely some cancelling issues here.
Emotional damage.
Oh god.
Yep, and if you
Please
need,
tell me who is the sponsor of the show because I missed this part of it because I was muted earlier. Sorry.
so for those who don't know, this show is sponsored by the Jeff. Actually, I need to look.
I hate my life. Why'd you ask him
It's
that,
the,
Carmen?
The Jeff Rader Relationship Counseling Services.
I think I might need that number.
So if you need counseling services, just remember the Jeff Rader Relationship Counseling Services is today's official sponsor.
So does anybody just watch Attack on Titan here? Because we're talking about needless dumb shit.
If anybody who's watching the show wants to donate some ISK to pay for a relationship counseling session for me and Darkshines, I'll be totally okay with that.
I got you, Carmen.
I
I
would
will,
pay money to see that
bro.
shit,
I
man.
got you. All
I
right.
don't like the thought about
Also,
this
we're
poor
gonna bring that
small-
Logi pilot in.
There's this poor,
Wait, which
small,
Logi pilot?
independent bounty
What's his
business
name?
company out there that's going to get a ton of calls from EVE players about this shitty drama that's happening. They can not know what to do with it.
You guys didn't see the Logi pilot that combo Darkshines?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fucking. We're gonna bring him in there too because he's got some stuff he needs to say to Darkshines, I guess.
Well, me and him are gonna have some fucking words because that is not acceptable behavior as far as I'm concerned.
That was pretty funny though.
Wait,
Yeah,
what?
I know you,
What happened?
I know you guys might laugh about it, right? But genuinely, it's not fucking okay.
It produced the greatest meme I think of the year so far.
Like some random, like I believe it's like some random line member from Test was like PM and Darkshines on Discord about some stuff to do with this like Titan being bubbled in a pulse, right? He was just basically shit talking the guy. That's just not fucking okay, right? I mean, like we've had our FCs being like PMs, like people from Init like shit talking them and stuff. Like it's toxic as fuck, right? It's not okay. It is literally harassment. Like we should have a fucking zero tolerance policy for that stuff. It's just not okay.
I mean, if you're gonna do it, just do it in the cesspool. Just
If
at
it-
Darkshines.
If it's someone that you know and like you chat to them a little bit and you know where the line is, where to have a bit of a joke, and when it's like gone too far, then you can kind of see that that's kind of okay, right? But when it's someone you don't know at all, and like you're not even an FC yourself, you're just a line member, and then it's like an FC from like another alliance, and you're just like literally just giving them shit in like DMs on Discord, like what the fuck is wrong with you? It's a game. Don't be a prick about it.
I mean, like
Sorry, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm
it is what it is, dude.
off
Like
the soapbox. I'm stepping off the soapbox.
everybody sees it differently. I thought that shit was funny as fuck because it produced a really, really solid meme. If you guys want to see the meme, I linked it. My name is Black Obsidian in chat, by the way. I linked it, and it's pretty fire. I think it's like so far the meme of the year, and we're only in February, so I'm excited to see the summer war, what it brings.
Fake news. There won't be a summer war.
There will
Summer
always
war?
be a summer war.
Who's fighting in summer, bro?
I don't know. Somebody's going to. Somebody's going to declare war on. Okay, so Eve won't be stagnant that long. You know what I mean? Give it 4 months. Somebody's going to declare war on somebody.
Are you trying to tell me that you're going to invade Outer Passage?
What I'm trying to tell you is that I have convinced Shattered Armor to invade OP. Okay, so
Holy shit! Please be true. Please.
I would.
I'll start a summer war. I'm off in the summers, so I'll have a lot of free time. Won't know what to do.
I think that would be like the coolest shit ever. See Brave invade OP. That'd be funny.
But they were losing fights against one of our corps. If they tried to actually fight Test, they would literally get curb stomped like day one.
I don't know, dude. They form pretty girthy.
Well, there would be NC, Horde, Slice, No Value, all the other groups.
Even
coming in
one
to
on
help,
one, they
so-
would get curb stomped. Even if they get decent numbers right, their FCs are fucking awful.
I don't know. I mean,
I like Brave right now because they've been helping us. So
Okay, so we could segment that into yesterday's turbo feed. So like,
Yeah.
it's
All right,
fucking
let's talk about that. Yeah, you're right.
one out of 100 turbo feeds. All right, like it's fucking. Let's see. Let me pull up the battle report real quick.
Sorry, what was the fight yesterday?
So,
that.
Test rage caged, right? Anybody that knows POSs, rage caged a POS that was in JTAC T that had Darkshine's Titan in it, right? They found out by I don't know, somehow that it had Darkshine's Titan in it, whatever. And basically, I guess Carmen said he rage caged it, and then in it formed to defang the rage cage. So then Test formed, Fire formed, and Horde formed, and then Goons formed. So then just giant fight of like 1,500 people in local ensued over this POS that had a Titan in it. And Horde, what was it? Horde, Fire, and Test got thoroughly punched in the dick.
Yeah, it was a bit of a feed, not gonna lie.
Gotta love some POS warfare, you know.
So what had happened? Like, I'll tell you my point of view. Obviously, it's like my perspective kind of thing. Probably like the day before, Init had reinforced like 2 Forzars in JTAC T, and this was they were looking like they were really gonna like actually make a play for a Forzar, and it would have been the first time they tried to like make a real attempt at fighting on a fort's armor timer in Faith. So the forts came out in Saturday, like Russian time zone. 3 hours before the forts came out, like Dark Shines was taking fleets around Faith Dabblers, like knocking out jump bridges, like doing all of the stuff that you would do if you were going to make like a serious play on a fort like that. And he's got a POS put up in the system, like his own Titans in the POS and all this stuff. And he got outformed basically, right? And they didn't decide to go for the forts basically because they knew they were going to get outformed. And they tried to spin to their guys. They were never going to do it anyway. Like, they never tried to give it a force. They obviously fucking did because, Darkshine's own Titan is in a POS in the system. Obviously, they were going to try if they could. So we form up and, the forts prepare. Nothing really too much is going on. We find out, like, halfway through, like, someone runs a locator. The Titan's still in the POS, right? So, like, literally me myself was like anchoring bubbles all over the POS just to fuck with the guy, right? Like, it's very easy to extract a Titan that's in a POS, even if it's bubbles. We all know that. Anyone who's been around the game for a while knows that. But it's more like if you want to do the work to put the bubbles there to just make them have to do the effort to get out, right? And when I stood my fleet down, the 2 forts have repaired, the POS was like bubbled, all this stuff. I actually was going out to go to a gig to go see a band with some friends of mine. And like the last thing I remember is I messaged one of our FCs who's around, and I said, "Look, whatever's going on, I trust you to make the calls. Do whatever you've got to do. Just do your thing." And then I came back, and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, so it was for anybody that wants to know, I linked the battle report in chat. It is 60 bill lost for the Goon side, and it was 130 bill lost for the what was it? FAPI side? FAPI. We'll call it FAPI.
Yeah, it was a bit of feed, not gonna lie.
Good brawl.
So, It was it looked like it was a decent brawl. You had one of every flavor hack there. You had Serbs, you had Eagles, and you had Munins. So like it was what it was. But I will say that like Horde formed girthy for this. It was 402 Horde there, 181 test, and I don't have the patience to add up all the fire random alliances that they fucking have.
So I believe that Horde had like a full Eagle fleet that was sat in a wormhole to come to the fort timers, and then I believe when the fight kicked off, they came in, and then they also formed like a second fleet from drone regions that came down. I think I'm not
It
sure.
looked like they
Wasn't
had a
there.
Serb and an Eagle fleet there, like a small-ish Serb fleet and then an Eagle fleet. Like maybe 60 Serbs, yeah, maybe 28. And then
The-
Test and Fire formed nothing but Munins.
The subs were most likely the Horde SIG that's deployed down there.
Yeah. Who is that? Securitas that's deployed down there, yeah.
Could not possibly comment.
I believe it's the Dronelands Expeditionary Force.
So
Could not possibly
Securitas.
comment.
That's Securitas' SIG.
I thought Securitas' SIG was the Bean Foreign Legion.
Not fucking.
Could not possibly comment.
He was literally reffing our Fortizar last night, so.
Anyway, we may want to move on from this point.
Oh goodness.
I mean,
Anyway, yeah, there was a big fight in Faith Abyss. Goons and Init won, and that was a big fight. People shot spaceships. I hope everyone had fun.
Yeah, it looked pretty toxic though, because of the tie-dye.
Dark Shine's Titan apparently got out. I think that's what's happened. Good for him.
Yeah, there's a bunch of. Let's see. 344 Munins on one side, 377 on the other side. I think the Serbs definitely did a lot of work for Goons, though. They had 161 Serbs versus your guys' 56. They outnumbered you guys about like 100, so.
All right, we get it. We fed. Like, I'm not gonna try and spin it. It was a bad fight. We fucking fed. Like, just take your soundbite and move on.
I'm not taking the sound bites. I'm the co-host. Co-host can't do that.
It
Sorry.
sounds like a lot of work. Anyway, let's move on to what's going on up north. BJK, Luke.
There's literally nothing going up north. It's super quiet at the moment.
Well, I mean, so you got the content phone whenever you want it. You know what I mean?
So there's nothing going on in Venal, huh?
Yeah, there's nothing.
Venal,
Quiet.
Vale, Posh Vent, it's all really quiet.
Oh yeah,
sucks.
the purge of rote from Pochven. Oh goodness, dude.
So like,
Okay.
I don't know about anyone else, but it kind of feels like Horde, or not Horde, but Fraternity has a bit of an axe to grind with various alliances, and seems to be taking it out on them, just a little bit. I mean, hell, the Pochman fort was like 900 FRT, which honestly I didn't even know you could get 900 people into Pochman. Like that by itself is honestly pretty impressive.
It's called a shuttle.
The
Well,
first few, oh, not even a shuttle. Like the first few times we did it, it was quite hard to get in because, like, say if we'd form like a 200 pilot fleet, like in our staging system in Vale, and then we'd have to divide the fleet up into 15 pilot squads or 15 pilot fleets. So like we'd have one fleet go up, everybody joins in, check the comp, yeah, it looks healthy, it looks good, we've got everything we need, right? Okay, everybody drop fleet, jump into one of these 16 fleets we've just linked in alliance chat. Go ahead and separate to those. Warp to the fleet commander of that group, filament in, and then like using the Poshvin map, like you take a 15-person filament and end up in one of those systems. But then you have to like everybody in this system move forwards, regroup. Everybody in this system move forwards, regroup. Like based on how much activity was happening in Poshvin at the time, but there weren't that many gate camps. Could have probably taken it a bit easier. Could have probably chilled a bit. Could have probably seeded more in. But the initial getting stuff into Poshvin was a headache. There's a lot of people that roam around in EU time zone in there, so it's not exactly viable at like 1800, 1900 to like quite covertly move some stuff there. We had to do is a bit of a more organized assault. But yeah, getting everybody in the first place was a bit of a nightmare. Like the last couple of days were a bit easier because the wormhole stopped getting rolled. So and we'd already got the ships there anyway. So yeah, we did manage to just like bridge straight to a wormhole and go directly in.
At that point, Rote kind of knew like what was going to happen anyways, and Yeah, it was over.
I assume
Yeah.
once the Continental fort died, they kind of just, and then once the other one went to Hull, obviously they went right. We'll call it, because they didn't put up a major defense on the second fort, right?
Nah, but up until that point, they had very, very good system control. Like they'd undock 20 Hecates at a heartbeat and just grab people at gates. Like they'd undock Megathrons, roll the wormholes, fill them in back in. Like they had very good control about who came in and who left. But yeah, the last couple of days in particular is a bit easier. A lot of the legwork has been the timers that we'd lost, because every time we lost, we left ships behind, ready for next time. But it took all of those, like the fight over the last couple of days, particularly the Covering Clade armor timer. I think that was the sum of every side's combined efforts over the last few months, for sure.
Oh yeah,
So wait, I
without
just
a
want to
doubt.
clarify something real quick. You shot the Continental?
The Continental's dead.
Yeah, he's
and
gone.
So you guys do know the rule. No business is allowed to be conducted on the Continental. We're gonna have to disown you now.
Boys.
Don't worry,
So,
we were
Oh,
280
chill out.
kilometers off it.
You broke
no,
rule number 1 of
yeah,
Fight Club.
like, dude, you can't. No business conducted on the Continental.
I mean,
So,
I will say, Rote defended that pretty well, and I mean, it took the combined force of Fraternity the better half of, I don't know, 4 months, 6 months to finally kill the structures.
yeah. So now they can rake in all the ISK from Pochvin.
I mean,
don't
it wasn't easy. Like they really swung every single time. It wasn't easy to break, which is why it took so long. And it's kind of impressive to see a group fight that hard over the flag.
It is amazing to see how these kinds of genuinely meaningful objectives that are available in the game generate very meaningful big fights. What a crazy thing. Maybe CCP could take notice of this and use that to inform their game design decisions in the future.
You
That's
think that's
wild.
ever gonna happen?
No, absolutely not.
Exactly.
But I can hope. I can hope
That's
and I
not
can
gonna
dream.
happen.
And I can also
CCP
run on the
doesn't care
CSM
about
and
us.
scream about it, right? So
CCP doesn't care about us.
yes, they do. They just don't really know how to help themselves and help you. That's really the issue. Like they care a lot. I genuinely think they care a lot. They just don't know how to do the things that are gonna be the thing to help everyone.
I think one change that might be good to implement would be, bringing back some sort of passive moon income.
Man, where have I heard that before?
I think that would be a decent change.
I
Like,
think that at least most of the FCs and nullsec that I've spoken to are generally like unanimously in favor of that kind of change.
because and back in the day, right? Obviously you've been playing for a while. Everybody in this channel has been playing Eve for a long time.
Not that long actually for me. I've only really been seriously playing Eve for about 4 years.
I've been seriously. Well, I played seriously for like the first 4 years. I took like 7 month break. I mean, it's been off and on. So,
We get it. You're a boomer.
but I'm a boomer, but I'm only 25. It's crazy.
Why
But
is
uh,
everyone younger than me in this fucking game?
so like, back in the day, right? POS mechanics were fucking awesome. And that was just me, right? You could drop 25 dreads, do the first reinforce, and then have a genuinely good fight over a fucking boss. And if it was and it was no timer, right? There was no timer on the POS timer, right? So you weren't like, oh well, we got to have drones on the POS to shoot it, right? You had to win the field, and then you could shoot the POS, right? Like that was kind of the whole thing. Or you just
Yeah.
drop dreads on it and you shoot the POS again. But what it
the
allowed
others
you to
were-
do,
they were like immediately important. Like if you flip that R64, that was immediately income. But if you're fighting over, let's say, an Athenor, right? You hit it a couple of days, armor timer, a couple of days, whole timer. Okay, right. So that's already 6 days. Then you got to put another one up. That's another 24 hours. Then you got to do a pull of the rock. That's a minimum of 6 days. So like before you've even undocked for the first timer, it's a minimum of 13 days before you get any money off that. And then the only people making money off that are those that can be online to mine it, and a lot of players who
That's not
enjoy
even the problem.
well, that's one of the big problems,
the effort.
right? It's
not
it's,
the
it's
effort taken.
okay. So you're telling me that not having an immediate source of income when you fight over a moon is not a problem. That's a huge problem. Like
It is a problem, I think, but it is not even close to being the main problem.
Of course, it's not the main problem, right? But it's a problem that people do not enjoy, right? There's no point to fight over a fucking moon where I have to wait another 20 days. And most of the time, it's on average, people do the largest poll possible. So it's a month and what, 3 or 4 days that they have to wait. So, like, it's kind of pointless to,
If you want to get into a discussion about what is not fun about fighting over citadels, that is like an hour-long conversation that could be easily skipped by me just linking you to Tarrel's post on Reddit.
That was a good post.
it is a good post, but
It is a good post, yeah.
like, and it makes a lot of good points. But it's not even like the Citadel gameplay. I could care less about the Citadel gameplay, right? Like it's kind of
Right.
toxic to have to fight Fortizars and Keepstars and Highsec, right? Because you don't have the fucking the ship's able to do that job.
It's nothing to do with the security of the space. Just
Well,
generally
I'm saying from me,
attacking large structures is fucking cancer in any area, in any situation. It's just fucking horrible. High
Yep.
sec, low sec, null sec, attack and force is fucking shit. Everyone knows it. Everyone is quite openly talking about it. It's just fucking horrible for everyone.
Like I would have rather shoot the 45 million HP on a fucking pos tower with a goddamn Lashak for 5 hours than than fight on a fort grid ever.
I mean, this topic is like we've been over this ground in like 100 different places a lot of times, right? Like I don't think we're discussing anything new here. I think probably most of the people here are probably on the same page.
No, 100%.
Citadel mechanics suck.
But yeah, the thing with moons in particular, right? Like with R64s and Athanors and that kind of thing. The thing that I see as being the main issue with it is that when what used to be big conflict drivers were R64s, which were in a conflict region, like between two different groups. Like if you have like Group A and Group B living in different areas of space, and then in the middle, that's kind of like where a lot of skirmishes happen. That's where you would normally fight over R64s and shit. With Athanors, you can't really give a fuck about fighting over like expensive moons there, because even if you own the moon, it is not realistic for you to be able to effectively mine it. So it just doesn't even fucking matter whether you own it or not. This was certainly more of a thing when raw cores were, the dominating thing that you would want to use to mine like something like an R64. But it's kind of still true now, because if you're trying to mine a moon that's like in a conflict region where someone else can just come drop on you, why would you? Just generally, why would you? Because like you're just gonna get dropped on and die.
I mean, yeah, no, I totally agree with that. That's why I don't mind moons.
What I have heard from many, many people to be a suggestion that's very, very common is if there was added by CCP, effectively a different kind of service module for mining the moon, which would basically give you passive moon mining at a massively reduced rate, something like 40% or 50% yield, but it was passive. That would be a thing that would actually like make it worthwhile to own those moons in like a conflict region where you couldn't really actively mine it, but you kind of wanted to own it because you can still then get some of the income out of it, right? And like for a high end R64, even at 50% yields, you're probably getting like 10 bill a month out of that. It's still like decent income.
Right, and
But
we don't have to go back to like the old days where a Technium moon would profit you like 20 to 25 bill a month, maybe more 60. Right, like
well,
it's
I think like I mean, I'm not an expert on this. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like a lot of the R6, like high end R64s now are like what 15, 20 bill a month, something like that.
Right at the top end, like double R64. I think
Yeah, like it's
your
more
average
commonly
is
like
about
sort of 10 to 12.
Yeah, yeah.
so I think with the moon changes now, right? Like the moon changes they implemented for like when they dropped Athanors, they were like, oh, we're gonna reinvent all the moons and redistribute all the ores across or the ores across New Eden. I think now, like with Postix, with the changes of that, I think that would definitely like divide the regions, right? A little bit better. Um,
I'm listening to what you're saying, but I don't understand the words that are coming out your mouth. I don't
okay,
understand what you're
so
saying.
so when they redistribute the moon minerals, right? They like
Yes.
when you like Fountain had a bunch of technium, right? And you would have like one technium moon in all of Providence type thing, right? Like different things like
Yeah.
that. when they redistributed it, right? Like there's less contest for certain moons, because you have that ore in certain places, right? So I think pauses would have been a lot better because now I feel like there are more R64s. Um,
I believe there is, yes.
I feel like there's more, so like it would be more contest, but there would also be a lot more income on it.
It is like that is reflective of a generalized issue, which has been a thing, which is what I would say is like a design direction, which CCP has been moving in for quite a while. Nullsec is a good, you know, barometer of this, but a lot of other places have also like had a lot of the same issues. The model that they are moving towards, air quotes, farms and fields, right? Like basically what CCP has been doing is making it so that every place in the game is able to have some income coming from it, but they like where it used to be like spikes of income that were like really really high but like not very common and not really very like centralized. It was like an R64 here, an R64 there, kind of all over the place, right? They've they've flattened all of the income, so the highest levels of income are massively lower, but the everywhere is now at like a generalized level of like being kind of decent but not really great, and it just removes the value of all space because all space is the fucking same.
Right, and that allows for more income for like smaller alliances, bigger alliances, things like that, to be able to go out and PvP more. Right, I see less PvP across all of Eve. Even
It
though like we have
reduces
massive fights, right? Back in the day, like there was a lot more fights going on. There's a lot more activity, and right, and there was a lot more just people in the game.
it reduces the like flashpoints where fights can happen around because there is nothing that is worth fighting over. Like a good example of this, right, is one that's been on my mind for a little while, is the ESSs, right? Nobody really cares too much about the ESS, right? Because like they're horrible to fight on. Like the mechanics of like being on the grid to fight on them is kind of like shitty. And even then, the money that someone's going to steal from a like a main bank ESS, like it's not really that much. Like who fucking cares, right? It's not really a big deal. What would be a great change that CCP could make, right, is to make the ESSs rather than per system, per constellation, like one ESS per constellation, to centralize all of that to become a bigger target, a bigger payout, but also a valuable thing that you will then fight over.
Yeah, and I feel back to your point of like PvP's happening less. Like there's always groups that will still PvP, and that's their pure focus. And ESS is like not drawing much fights. I mean, we live in Vale. That like every day there'll be an MPSI fleet coming and popping into our ESS, and like some days we fight them. We'll try and bring like a fight that's worth taking, but sometimes it isn't. Like from a pilot that has like one star in one system, like they'll probably report it on Intel. Oh no, I'm about to lose 20 million ISK, and everyone's like, oh no. But if there's like a real
Oh
fleet
no,
coming through, yeah, oh no.
I think what Carmen's discovering is the outer passage effect.
Yeah, like if you move somewhere like Vale, like
it's the same everywhere,
Fraternity,
bro.
or no, like Braves having some amazing fights in Pure Blind. Like because they're towards the center, like they're in a position of vulnerability. They've not locked themselves away at the edge of the map. They've intentionally put themselves somewhere where people will come and fight. And we've had loads of people coming in to Vale, and that's valley of the content is what we're calling it, because so many MPSI grid, like it's what 12 jumps from Jita, or most of our systems are in Blops range of Jita. Like you could just undock and go, like it is fine, and we'll always turn up. So if you position yourself somewhere that sure, like is it worth undocking 100 Ferox, let's say, is it worth undocking like 10 billion ISKs worth of stuff to save 40 million in ESS? No. But will it give
Even
people something to do? Yes. And that's
but
kind of what
okay,
it's all
right?
about.
Even though like it sounds like you're getting some pretty good content over there, right? Which is great. But even though you are getting quite good content there, do you think that if things like the ESS, which were like like a roaming objective that people can sort of tap into as they're going through, do you think that if there's less of those objectives, but they were worth more and meant more, do you think that you would get more meaningful fights and more content and more fights out of that?
Meaningful is relative. Like a lot of the big fights happen over things that don't matter.
Do you think that
Like,
if an ESS is like worth more, that people will be more like
I mean, yeah,
interested in fighting for
okay.
it?
So if you if there were less places to fight, there would be more focused fights. Like if you go into an ESS, there's like no one in system. Sure, it's easy money. That's never going to draw a fight. But people who are actually doing it for content know which ESSs to hit. They know which, like they'll dive into a wormhole. They'll park marauders on the edge of
That's
Cloak Up.
it's a
Like,
different argument, right? Like,
sure. I know what you're saying. That
People who are playing the game to create content are always going to play the game in a way that they try to create content, regardless of whatever the game mechanics are, right? That's always going to be the case. It always has been the case. And that's what you're talking about, right? Like people who are going out there to create fights. But people who are going out there to like go and steal money from an ESS, they're maybe like not too interested in a fight, right?
Sure.
When the objectives are more valuable, people are more interested in investing more in it, and that's how you get these like bigger flashpoints and like get these fights.
Sure, I
But
think
then
that's
surely you'd get the same fights though over the reserve bank at that point.
Do people
or
even
in
use reserve
R64,
banks though? Like,
Yeah,
I get what
occasionally
you're
there's people
saying,
running
right?
reserve
So
banks.
like if you go to the reserve bank in certain regions, you get some big old payouts, right? Like I know over by Fire, their reserve bank is what, like 18 billion at one point. So like
I get what you're saying, Luke, but like you are actually proving my point for me, because what my point was is that when these objectives are more meaningful, they're more valuable, like people will be more willing to fight over them.
I think you need to make it easier,
We'll fight
right?
over both, right?
The
So-
reserve keys, the 45-minute reserve keys are pretty expensive. Like the risk reward that you're going to get going into a system where you know you're going to get a fight is not worth it. I mean, yeah, you can use them to like steal ISK in places where you might not get a fight, but I think the keys are too expensive to encourage, like, I don't know, a T1 gang to go out, try to steal something just to get a good fight.
Yeah, I think like if you formed a fleet to make, but like so we're kind of differentiating between a fleet that's worth something, as in strategically everybody will benefit financially from it, and a fight that will make people want to come and join you and get involved with the game. So if you undocked a fleet and you say, right, by the end of this fleet, we're gonna have taken X amount of R64s or whatever, like those conflicts rarely happen because moons are taken by diplomacy. Like it's very rare that you have border skirmishes because it's just not worth it, and people
Well,
don't
not
form
anymore.
ESS. Oh, people
You
don't
certainly
form
used to,
ESS.
but not now.
Yeah, sure. But like people don't form ESS fleets because right, I want to make 1.5 bill today so I could save up for some like mods for my carrier. So we're gonna do an ESS fleet, then we're gonna equally divide the payouts between everybody. Like no one's doing it with that in mind.
That's
They're
not the
just
point I was
conflict
making
zones.
though. The point I was making though was that if you could make that much money with ESS, would more people do it?
no.
They absolutely fucking would. What are you talking about? If you could go to any system in a game and go into an ESS main bank and like there's like a flat rate 5 bill to pull out, fuck yes, loads of people would be doing that shit. There would be loads more content. Obviously, it's like a ridiculous example that's not going to be a real thing that would ever happen in the real world, right? But as a throwaway example, if there was a big value to that content, loads more people would be fucking doing it. And you all know that. You all know that.
But if you're forming a fleet to make money, you rarely do PvP. You
Yeah.
do PvE. If you're forming a fleet to do PvP, you go because you want kills and you want people to have fun. And I think we need to differentiate those two because there are very
you
rare.
don't. No, you don't. Like,
I
if
can't
there
think
is
of
an
any
opportunity,
overlaps.
if there is an
Okay, so-
opportunity
so
to do
what-
PvP and
what
then
we're
there's the
talking
same
about,
opportunity to do PvP and make loads of money, of course there's going to be more people doing it.
So what we're talking about though is more objective based fleet content for like larger groups to do and smaller groups to do. It's not like the individual solo ganger, because the instant you add 5 bill to an ESS or even like 1 bill flat to an ESS, you're going to have people like, the wormhole groups that come around, they put 2 paladins on the outside and just beam laser everything you bring in
Let's
down.
not
Like,
use that as an example because like that was.
but no, that's exactly
was a
what's going to
dumb
happen.
example, right?
Like the roaming gangs are going to come around and just consistently just sit in your ESS for hours and hours on end, because every 2 hours they'll be able to get 1 bill out of it, right? Or even 500
concept
mil.
I'm trying to explain, right, is that if there are things that are worth caring about for people to fight over, there will be more fights. Currently, all of the things which are objectives that people can go and fight over, which are not like, Giga fucking invading someone, fighting over an iHub stuff, all of the other like smaller scale objectives, they're literally meaningless, all of them. If those meant
Partially
something,
depends where
then
you're
you would
poking the
get more
objective, though,
fights.
right?
Right, so
Like in
what
low sec, you can poke Athenors and get proper fights over them.
I
Legitimately,
mean, because
can,
it's a
it's something
snuff.
we did,
It's a snuff Athenor.
or a Stellar Legion, or any of the other groups that kind of
Stuff
I'm
is
not.
stuff is the
I'm
only
not.
group that exists in Los okay?
I am
Changed
not
my mind.
saying that that is not true, right? The point that I'm trying to make is that if those things that are available as objectives were worth more, you would get more fights.
Real quick, I would just like to welcome Altarari to the show.
Hello,
Oh,
Alterari.
hey there.
I fucking love Alterari. I'm really happy he's here.
Altari disowned me as his child.
I think it's like Microsoft or something.
It's my least favorite Tornado FC.
I feel like the first thing he's going to say is how much he's going to invoice BJK for.
He's already talked like 4 times.
God, I wish that was true.
But no, so like again, right? Like it's all based on the fact of like, okay, you're gonna have people take advantage of it, and then people that didn't take advantage of it. The issue with the point that I'm trying to bring up with this, okay, with like the roaming gangs taking advantage of stuff like this, is that with the pos moons, right? The passive moon income from pauses and stuff, you didn't have like small roaming gangs taking advantage of it except dropping a siphon, right? When you dropped a siphon, that was the only thing that you could do to steal the goo and take the moon, because if you reinforce the moon, you'd have to have something on the back of it, not just, like 2 or 3 paladins and a couple of nightmares and some Lokis for webs, and like boom, you win an ESS grid right
Yeah.
there. So
I mean, that was a long time ago, right? And like the era of the game that you are talking about is one in which there weren't really any kind of small or medium scale objectives for roaming gangs, really. I mean, I think you could like reinforce like services on like an NPC station or something, but that was it. There was nothing else you could do.
Even then, it required like a pretty sizable group to take care of, like reinforcing services and stuff. It wasn't easy.
Yeah. I mean, like nowadays there is more stuff for like small and medium-sized roaming groups to do, but they don't fucking mean anything. Like no one cares. You're gonna go into ESS, like start like stealing the ESS. People see the notification, they're just like, whatever, man. You can have that 30 mil. I don't fucking care.
so I'm not specifically bringing up like revert back to old times when you don't have ESSs and stuff like that, right?
I get the point you were making.
Yeah, I'm saying like keep it today's current time, and then like
I mean, yesterday is a good example of POS's cause content.
That's my fault. I'm sorry. Yeah, but not really.
I
But
mean, yeah, it's hard not to, because like
that wouldn't have happened on Master House or a Fort.
Exactly, it wouldn't have. But yesterday, and there was no ability to just deaggress and tether. Like that just wasn't a thing.
I wasn't even there, but you can just see what happened, right? It's just really obvious, like how that played out. It just
I'm gonna be
Citadel's a
honest.
broken.
I don't know
Citadel's a
how the
fucking broken,
hell. I don't know how the hell we didn't eat shit in the first 10 minutes of that fight.
I don't even know how that fight happened. Like, there was nothing to fucking fight over.
I mean, we wanted to get Shine's Titan out.
I saw a screenshot that he'd logged in, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I feel really bad about this,
Okay,
right?
so
Because
I was FC. I zoomed out to get a better view of the grid, and I see his Titan login the second your guys' faxes hit grid, and I'm thinking to myself, this is gonna be fucking memes.
so basically, I mean, you know, like what happened with the forts, right? And like, the forts were reinforced, and we big formed, and they repaired and all that stuff. And then we find out during that Shine's Titan is in a pos. So I'm like, yeah, fuck it, let's go anchor some bubbles on Shine's Titan on the pos, right? So like literally, like all of the bubbles were anchored, but me, I anchored all those fucking bubbles. There's no realistic chance that he's gonna get trapped there. Like the guy's not an idiot. There are so many ways you can get out of that. So many ways, right? There's no reason for anyone to commit anything to that grid in any real fashion, right? And yet it fucking still happens.
I mean, he could have waited till downtime or an hour before downtime, dropped a fleet, killed the bubbles, and got out. Like
Literally at any point, he could have logged in, reset the POS force field password, bounced his Titan out of the POS, and just jumped out. Literally at any point.
But that's no fun.
But the thing is, right, the reason that we anchored the bubbles there is to make him have to do that.
Pull an old, what was it? That was RNK that did that, right?
Yeah, but
yeah, it was Rooks and Kings.
There's like a whole bunch of ways that he could have got his Titan out, and like realistically, he was always going to get his Titan out, but it costs very little effort for us to do that, and it makes him have to do it. Like, I'm making you have to do the effort to do that thing. and somehow it
Yet you
caused a
guys
huge
still
snag where we
fucking
did get
committed
fed.
to it. Like, that
Did get
makes
fed.
no sense to me.
The POS didn't even have any fucking guns on it. How does that happen?
I know.
And we still fucking feed.
Not only did you guys feed, you fed 2-1.
Probably because no FC in the current meta has ever fought on a fucking POS grid.
There was no guns on the POS. There was
Okay.
there was nothing on it. Literally nothing. It was effectively fighting in open space.
Altari, I literally said the current meta.
Okay, I mean, I am
was
in the current meta.
effectively fighting in open space.
Yeah, effectively. Like, there's no like real safety without.
The only thing that would have been a factor in that fight was, you know, the POS shields and feathering in and out of the POS shields. But I mean, I wasn't
Okay,
there.
and so a lot
I
of
don't
the
think anyone
FCs.
really took advantage of that.
Okay, let me revert my statement. So like a lot of the FCs and so personally, right? I feel a lot of the FCs and PAPI change out a lot, right? A lot of them are like high rotation unless they're like the big head guys, right? Like Securitas has fought over POSes, things like that. Let's see who else was in this fight. Hold on. So like Chaser and Arcadios, I imagine Arcadios hasn't fought on a POS grid that often. Tafos, probably not. Securitas definitely has. Shines has. Blurkus has. Bad Dodger maybe.
Dodger's been around for like fucking 20 years.
I know, and that's I say maybe because they used to own all the POSes in Stain and they weren't really contested. Oh wait, no, that's Stain. That's Stain Wagon. Never mind.
Just move on.
Yeah, and then Alterari, that guy's brand new to the game, so nobody knows him.
What is the point you're making?
So like, it depends, right? Like, you feather in and out of the shields, even if you have no guns, right? Like, nobody knows what's going on. They're, oh, we can't lock this guy now, and then can lock him now, right? So you're just constantly saving one or two guys here and there just by doing that.
Like I said, I wasn't there. I didn't see what happens, but I can't believe that even if someone was doing that with a subcap fleet, I can't believe that was a serious like factor in who won and who lost.
I mean,
no one was feathering in out of the POS shields. We were all too far. So, like, if you look at some of the screenshots from yesterday, we were way too far off of the POS to be feathering in and out.
Yeah, I have no idea, dude. I wasn't there. I was reffing shit in Tenerife.
Dude, every Nullsec FC who's like active right now, pretty much in the entire game, like you can effectively understand how their brain works by looking at like the subreddit Wall Street Bets. It's like F1 fucking approach to shoot guns.
Yeah, pretty much.
That is so true.
That's it. That's literally it.
Also, Spicy, we're literally assuming that goons know how to play the game.
I've been playing for 18 years. I know how to play this game.
Goons won the war, like, so.
People chat like a lot of shit about goons being really dumb and all this stuff, like, you know, the whole goon.
They're really good at the game.
No, they're not that fucking dumb. Like, obviously, it's a narrative spin. Like, you make the jokes about it. Like, you know, like you take it like being like a real thing. Like, you talk to you guys about it. If you genuinely, on a very real level, evaluate people in the FC positions in goons who are actually like not complete morons, they're actually quite good for the most part. Most of them. Obviously, there's a lot of idiots, but for the most part, most of the active ones are decent. Probably not amazing, right? But they're good. They are above average good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All of our FCs, more specifically the block level FCs, have 3 brain cells they can rub together.
So
that's why Goon doesn't want me.
I wasn't talking about the FCs. I was talking about like the average line member.
Most of the FCs and goons improved a huge amount during the war. I would say, like from what I saw at least.
It's okay.
We had a lot of practice, and I mean that's not any dig. That's literally like it was every day. We were always FCing. Like it was
the same for us, you know. Like it was just good for everyone. It was good content. It was a fucking good time for everyone. It was good.
Oh no, absolutely. It was great for everyone on the FC level. Like we got to teach each other a lot and learn a lot together, whether it was for or against each other.
I think the war was actually very, very healthy for the game in general, in like a really, really massive way, because it brought up basically a whole new generation of FCs who really hadn't FC'd on that kind of like big war level before on both sides, and they went from like not knowing what the fuck they were doing to being actually quite good. Like the war literally like has built a new generation of FCs who are going to be playing the game now.
Yeah, absolutely.
On both sides, and that's great. It's great for the game.
I wholeheartedly agree. I'll be right back in 5 minutes.
Yeah, but it also kind of, you know, shaped the meta that these FCs are going to be using. You know what I mean?
The meta is not shaped by the players; it's shaped by the game mechanics.
Sorry, I worded that improperly. It shaped their it shaped the meta that they like to use based on their experience levels on what they're using.
What people like to use is the best thing that is the most efficient that wins the most. And
Well,
if they are using something that's not that, it's because they don't have the knowledge to know what is the best thing to use.
Kidding me?
If they know what's the best thing to use, they will use it.
Well, no, it's not quite how the last fight we had in Poshel went down. Because, I mean, sure, you can use hacks, you can just use Muniz and repeatedly, like, slam Muniz into a Fortizar. But if you're undocking a comp like Muniz, you know for a fact you're going to trade until one side has less than the other side and it's over. And sure, like, from a strategic standpoint, it's only going to cost X amount of ISK. But for the individual pilot sat in that ship, that's boring, because you know that you're basically the FC sending its fleet to die, but you're dying slower than the enemy fleet. And so from a player perspective, that's, okay, right, I'm dead. What do I do now? Do I just sit on comms and listen? Do I reship? Do I try and come back? Like, they're all focused on this grid. Should I be doing something else? And that's, like, not really engaging gameplay. So when you have groups that try and do, say, Jam Goose to fight Munins, or, last night and, a couple of days ago, we started using Rogues, because throughout the duration of the fight, we could pull the fight away from the Fortizar and focus it on our battleships. And whilst we're chilling with those there, sure, we have some Munich fleets bounced around, we have Tornado fleets bounced around, whatever. But now those pilots that join the fleet are going to be there for the entire duration, and you're not going to have those trades. So I know, I agree that, like, the mechanics shape what people use, but it's a lot of groups that are just still slamming Munis at everything should really try other things. And instead of thinking about what's strategically good, like, oh, what's the cheapest thing we can lose to win this objective? Or what's the cheapest thing? Like, if you take something that's going to be fun and think about how the players.
If CCP is listening to this, get rid of fucking Munins, please.
No, they've got their place. Like, they have a place. It's the mindset of the content creators to put them in something more exciting.
No, it's not.
So hold on.
If Moonins are the best tool to use in a given situation, people who know what they are doing will use them in that situation. There's just no way you can argue around that. If it is the best thing to use, people will use it, right? And the point that you were making earlier about when you get into a really big fight, like, you're effectively just trading ships against ships. Doesn't really matter what you're fighting, right? If you're fighting in, like, 1,000-person fight versus 1,000-person fight, it does not fucking matter what you are flying. You can be flying any kind of battleship you want. That is just how the game works. You will be trading your ships against their ships. That's just how the game works at that scale. That's just how it works. You are not going to tank with a fax with a battleship when 800 people are shooting you. You're just fucking not, and the game should not allow you to do that either.
Okay, so now you're assuming most fights are 800 people scale, right? Like, I fight all the time, 200, 300 people in local, right? You have 120 people on either side, right? You literally can tank that many people with a fax and a battleship. It's quite easy, actually. So, like, now we're going, okay, well, these mega null blocks are, doing this thing where they're using just Munins all the time, right? That's fine. Munins have a place for, like, the huge block warfare, but having people use other stuff is also, like, interesting, right? It's interesting to see how people use to counter certain shit, right? Like, counter Munins, right? You have to actually use your brain to figure out what you can use to track them, web them, kill them without dying as quickly as them.
We couldn't have done what we did. We couldn't have done what we did in Poshvin without. No, we couldn't have done what we did in Poshvin, and we couldn't have done a lot of the plays we've made in Vale recently without the fleet warp mechanics. Knowing that you can have a wall of rogues that everybody is spread out. Sure, there's going to be people burning it towards you with Serbs. Like, naturally, if you have a ton of rogues at 0, you're all in the same position. You're not going to track very well at all. But if those rogues or if those Ferox are spread out up, down, left, right, 50 kilometers, and you all have long range ammo, sure, some of you aren't going to track, but the majority are, and that's enough to actually make a difference in the fight. So, combined with, like I said, we made the fight happen around the rogues. We didn't come to the fort at 0. We didn't swing around in Munis. We just centered the fight perfectly around that position behind, and then everything else was moving around us. And if you can do something creative with fleet warps, if you can do something creative with the mechanics that have been added recently, there's a lot more possibilities you can do. So,
I'd like to thank you guys for warping in a wall in Nalvula and making my life as a Tornado FC so much easier.
Yeah, right. So you are now in a position that you could pick some people off, and you were in range of some, and then not all of us were in range of you. And that's fine. Like, well done for being like one of the only fleets that was effective for 50% of that.
Hey, it was a lot more than 50%. Your message said 75. All right, motherfucker.
I watched the footage back.
All right, so the point I was trying to get to, which I think might have been missed a little bit, it wasn't about small scale fights, right? Because we were talking about big scale fights. In big scale fights, your ships trade. That's just how it works, right? There's no real way around it. Small scale fights obviously work differently, but big scale fights, your ships have to be designed to trade. That's just what you do, kind of thing. In
I
regards to
want
like
to know I want to know what your idea of a big scale fight is.
I would say like 300 on each side and above, something like that. I'd call it a big fight.
I would say more like 500 or 600 on each side and above would be considered big scale in the current meta
I mean,
because
it's like-
we are throwing
it's
thousands of people at each
subjective,
other.
It's subjective, and everyone's gonna have a different opinion of like what is a big fight. But I would say like 300 to 400 each side is like pretty big.
I'm about to say, for me, like a big fight is 300 and local, right? Like 150 both sides.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
Because I'm not a big fan of tie dye, and I'm not a big fan of like 1,500 to 6,000 people in local, right? Like
everyone's got
it's
their
absolutely. It's
everyone's got
relative to
their
the
own things they
FC.
like, right? And like everyone's got their own different ideas. Like that's what I was saying. It's subjective. Everyone's idea of what is a big fight is going to be different. There's going to be FCs in the game that think like 30v30 is a big fight, and that's totally fine. They're not wrong.
And yesterday,
like, that's their
900 v
experience.
900. That's a pretty sizable fight, in my opinion.
That was a fucking big fight. Yeah, it's big boy
And
shit.
we absolutely smoked PAPI.
Great, well done. I've got a medal for you. Hold up, I got it in my pocket.
Oh, you got a medal for me. It's been a while, Carmen. I wish you were there so I could smug about you being a shit FC, but sadly it was only everyone but you.
He was drunk.
I was. I went to go and see a good band with some friends. Anyway,
I want to bring
I'm
up
sure
what
you'll
somebody
have
said
your
in chat,
chance real
though.
soon.
I need an opportunity to be smug against you, Carmen, so we gotta get this shit rolling.
I
want
to
to bring up something in chat first. Back to the Primitive said Arcadios was beating Shines with equal numbers. Was this
No,
true?
he wasn't.
Was this true?
That happens every time.
Arcadios is beating Shines?
He's not got an advantage. Pretty much any time Shines
let's pull up the
fights
battle report.
anyone and he's not got some kind of like decisive advantage, like Faxes or Carrot or something, pretty much every time he fights someone on even numbers on an even playing field, he fucking loses. Because he's bad. Shines is amazingly good, right? I genuinely really rate him as an FC. I think he's very, very good because of the fact that he's very good at two things. One of them is avoiding sunlight, and the second one is knowing when to stand down. He genuinely is amazingly good at knowing what fights not to take. He makes the right decision almost every single fucking time. That's why he never loses bad fights. But it also means that every time he does take an even fight, he does not know what to do because he's never fucking done it before. Oh shit, like silence. I'm sorry.
I'm pulling up the battle report like I said I was going to. Just give me a second.
I genuinely like the guy, but like, you've got to chat shit. It's a fucking video game, right?
We wouldn't be here if we didn't chat shit to each other, Carmen. Come on now.
So speaking of chatting shit, I would just like to take some more time to shout out our sponsor, the Jeff Rader Relationship Counseling Services. Got problems with your significant other? The Jeff Rader Relationship Counseling Services has got you covered. Give them a call at 1-800-OG-PANDEMIC-LEGION. That's 1-800-OG-PANDEMIC-LEGION.
Okay,
Oh,
so-
yay!
So I pulled up the battle report. I pulled up the battle report and I limited it to 1830 when the first bubble died to 1950 when the first goon died on field. And it
I imagine
was
it's a big fucking feed from us, isn't it?
It's not that bad actually. It's 10.5 lost by initiative to 7.2 lost by PAPI and friends.
I mean,
So it wasn't a huge feed, but it
That's
wasn't
like basically even, right?
Yeah, it's effectively even. There was one point where you see like a fuck ton of mutants die, but
Yeah, and like they were on the POS grid as well, so they could like disengage literally anytime they wanted to. I don't know, man. Whatever. Like less than 40 bill, whatever.
yeah. And then when we showed up, it started really getting bloody.
I mean, it's good that these fights happen. I mean, obviously, even though we lost the fight, we obviously lost the fight. Like, I'm not going to spin that because, why would you? pretty fucking obvious. You know, you can see the numbers on Dotland or Ezekiel or whatever. You know, we lost that fight. It's still good that these things happen, right? Because this whole theater of not really war, but like border skirmish almost, like in the southeast, it's been like shit for a long time. There's not really been that many good fights. Even the fights that have happened, they've been shit for like one side or the other side. So to actually have like a good fight where both sides are like actually like in, you know, fighting, killing stuff, it's good. It's good for the players, it's good for the game, it's good for the line members. Bad for the SLP wallet, obviously, for both sides, but like fucking whatever, it's all good, man.
There's definitely an art to
People are
picking a
playing the
comp.
game and enjoying it, and that's good.
Yeah, there's definitely an art to picking a comp and taking a fight where it's even for both sides. Like those kind of things don't always happen by accident.
No fight is ever even. That's a fallacy. Like, you can't. If you know the game, you genuinely cannot believe that to be true. No fight in this game is ever even.
Yeah, there's always going to be someone coming to either third party or join one side.
So I just want to do this plug real quick. Redline said that the sponsor is really Raid Shadow Legends. If you guys love raiding, okay, if you guys liked raiding in World of Warcraft, you're gonna love Raid Shadow Legends. You have multiple levels to go through. You have multiple champions to choose from. It's
Fuck
awesome.
off.
Try to play it.
He's not even sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. He's just chatting shit.
Oh, I know.
But you see, we're actually sponsored by the Jeff Rader Relationship Counseling Services. Just saying.
I'll throw some money into that, man.
It's called 1-800-10. That's 1-800-10.
Can they save my doomed relationship with my ex?
Yeah, probably not.
I didn't think so. Can they drop supers on it and just end it now?
Probably not.
Dude, I'm like right here. So to backtrack a little bit to some of the topics we were talking about like a little while ago, related to, you know, what ships are used and, like, you know, the meta in the game and all that kind of thing. Genuinely, the meta of what is the meta is defined at the highest levels in nullsec, at least, by what are the most effective tools to use, right? You know, you literally cannot become a high level FC in nullsec without spending an absolute, like, fucking embarrassingly, like, soul destroying amount of time in Python. You just can't. You will not understand the game well enough.
So
But-
wait. Are you telling me
Can
that you as
can
an
I finish
FC?
my point first?
Hold on. I want to clarify this.
Sure,
That
go ahead.
You as an FC don't spend an excruciating amount of time in Python already?
I probably spend more time in Python than I spend FC includes.
There you
Honestly, I probably spend. I hope my boss isn't listening 3 to 4 hours of work a day at work in Python.
go.
The thing is,
100%.
right, when you're like really interested in just how the game works overall, you tend to spend a lot of time just looking stuff up, just out of
And
interest,
tinkering.
right? It's like, what's good? What's not good? Oh, this ship, is this good in this way? Is it bad in this other way? Like,
Can I
you know,
use this in a niche way?
there is like a thing that I like. I want this thing to be available to me to use, but there's no ships that can do it. How do I do this? Let's go find a ship. Let's go like put some fits in there. Let's go find something, right? Like, that's like people who are good FCs, like, you know how the game works because you fucking spent half your life in Python, like tinkering around with everything. Like, you know what the fit and sizes are for everything. Like, you know what the range of the guns are because you've been like spending half your life in the goddamn Python.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
It's not just about Python though. It's about how you can make that. Like, sure, Python is perfect conditions, perfect numbers, whatever.
You can adjust those perfect conditions and numbers, though. You can make it
Exactly. So if you don't
It
have
is-
enough to volley, sure, but like
It is
if you
something
can
to take
force
into consideration. It's
situation-
not the whole
Yeah.
story.
Exactly. And I think the most experienced FCs are those that go out there and make those situations happen. If you
Yeah,
can
it's
boost a
faithfulness,
pack of
right?
25, like, yeah, let's say so. I don't think Nenex is here at the moment, but the Ravens that they've been using to fight in Venal are really, really strong. They're very powerful. Using the Citadel, target painters, and webs, they have perfect application with cruise missiles. We would need an insane amount of munions just to volley them, because if you don't volley, you don't kill. So instead of trying to slam more munions into it, if you could take a boosher down and boosh a pack of those Ravens away, you can isolate those and kill those, then perch, then do it all again. So yeah, on Python, you won't win that fight. You need to have like 3-1 odds of munions versus their DPS ships if you want to stand a chance at killing anything. But you don't win those fights on Python. You win those fights by having ping set up in advance, by having combat probes ready to go, by like
That's
knowing
not the point,
they're going
though.
to come to this side. Oh wait, 100% is the point. Like if you can't say like all the best FCs are made on Pi first. No, the best FCs are made by actually
didn't
playing the
say that.
game. Like you need to understand how the grid works. It's not just like attack and defense. If you look at the AT stuff, it's attack, defense, and control. And if you can control the grid, you can control the fight. You don't ever give them a position to regroup. You
So
don't let them happen.
what I said is that probably pretty much all of the best FCs in the game have spent a lot of time in Python. That's not the only thing they've done to become good, and it's not the only reason they are good, but it's a common theme where probably pretty much all of them have done the homework. They've fucking read the reports, they've done the math, they've looked at the fits, they know how the ships individually work on like a very basic mathematical level, right? It's a base level of knowledge that these people have. It's not why they're good. It's not the only thing that makes them good, but like pretty much everyone has to know that. It informs your decision making process whilst you are FCing your fleet.
Oh, definitely. You have to use them. You have to be very knowledgeable about each composition and how it works to tailor your tactics around it. But whilst Eve is a numbers game, there is still way more to it. So I don't think.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I feel like encouraging. Python is good to have. It's a good tool in the toolkit, but I think they're two very different points about what makes a good FC that can control the grid and an FC that just spends time on Python.
I never said that if you only spend time on Python, you'll become good FC, because you fucking won't. And I know that because I spend a lot of time on Python and I'm shit FC. But anyway,
man.
The thing is, right,
amazing at Python. There's so much you can do in it that people don't realize.
Even when you spend a lot of time in Python, right, like you also have to understand there is an interpretation that you have to take from what is the napkin math, the paper numbers, to what is like the real world things, right?
And there's a math equation that I can actually probably grab real quick, but that interprets
that's nerd shit, man. That's way too far.
It's super nerdy, but you get the math and you plug in all the variables, and then it gives you what would be as close as you can get to the real world execution of the doctrine or ship.
So to give you a very basic example, right, and this is like just off the cuff, like just guesstimate bullshit, right? If you go and look at a matchup from one doctrine ship versus another doctrine ship, for example, let's take like Moonins against Feroxes, right? You want to know how many ships does it take, how many Moonins does it take to volley a Ferox, right? You go and look at how much damage, like volley damage, the Ferox does. The Moonin does. And then you go and look at what is the EHP against that damage type for the Ferox, and then you open a calculator, you do the divide sum, and it's like X amount of ships, right? For the sake of argument, it's not this, but let's just say it's this. Let's say that it's like 35 Moonins to volley a Ferox on paper, right? It's not that. That's the paper number. In practice, it's absolutely not that.
If you look at Twitch, on paper, there's the equation that accounts for everything.
If on paper it's like 35, in practice it's probably like 50. And like that's where you base it on, right? It's like on paper, if the number's like 35, in practice probably it's about 50, and then like you base how fast you broadcast targets and stuff based on your fleet size, and then like that number in between, right?
I'd just like to shout out Arcadios for yesterday putting Munins on Eagles at 0. You're a hero.
Wait, did he actually do that?
Why wouldn't he?
Antimatter, go Bert. I was not volleying, but I would say I was broadcasting 7 targets a minute and 10% tie-dye.
Right, but do you think that Moon's going to break Eagles at range?
Not really. It just kind of depends. But at 0, we're going to trade way better than Immune and Fleet will.
Yeah, I think if the Munins landed on 0, the Eagles, they definitely should have literally just left and gone after the other Munin fleet, maybe?
Munins against Eagles is basically just a losing fight, pretty much, right? Especially if they got facts, you're just fucked. But even without facts, like you kind of, it's just not a fight you're going to win on like trading efficiency. If your fleet's a lot bigger than theirs, then you can potentially like feed into winning the grid, but you're never going to go ISK efficient because that's just not how the fucking matchup works.
Or you're smart and put an extra shield extender on your Eagle and then laugh.
Oh, if you're going to do like the AB Eagle triple extender fit, then you just get void bombed and you're fucked.
I didn't do that, but I wanted to. Trust me, I thought about it.
That shit is like so vulnerable to void bombs, man.
Yeah, it was. There was some bombs flying yesterday, and I wasn't able to see them. There's so much shit on my overview.
The thing is, like, there's basically no FCs in nullsec who are like willing to use AB Eagles outside of like giga escalation range.
Yeah.
The only time we've really ever seen it was in the Fraternity War in like 2018, 2019, when Tess was fighting Frat and like Elo was like just fucking doing AB Eagles all the time. And like AB Eagles were just like, that was just his thing. He just did it all the fucking time, right? But, like,
Elo's
no
a
one really
champ.
ever. They are really good, but AB Eagles, no one really does them anymore because they are so scared of getting bubbled and pinned down. And it's not like a point I'm making against any alliance in particular or any FC in particular. Everyone does it because everyone's scared of it. I'm scared of it.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Fuck that.
The only time you use fucking AB Eagles, right, is if you're in tether range where you've got like 100 carriers ready to go.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the crippling that the AB does is just makes it hard.
The worst part about it is like AB Eagles are so good. Like on paper, they are just so good at everything. Their only weakness is if you're losing the fight, you are just done. Like your fleet is over.
Yeah, Arcadios figured that out the hard way. Me and Blarkus dropped what was it, like 100 Ishtars on him.
Right.
Also, AB Eagles don't win versus drones. Ishtars for the win.
Yeah, like Ishtars are really good against Eagles. That's pretty obvious, right? Like heavy drones in particular from Ishtars have like insane tracking. They do like I think like 500 DPS. I think from heavy drones from Ishtar.
Is this 638?
Yeah, if you're running shield Ishtars, it's like obviously more, but it's like insane damage. And obviously Eagles don't have a utility high slot for smart bombs or anything like that. Like it's a good counter to them. Like it's
And
really
then,
bad if they have MWD Eagles. It's really really bad, but AB Eagles they get totally fucked.
Yeah, but
Totally fucked by
MWD
Ishtars.
Eagles, you just drop bouncers. You know what I mean? Like bouncers significantly well tracking. Like
Yeah, you're still not going to trade
Eagles
that well
fleet
because
over.
you're still not going to trade that well against them because you're in fucking shield Ishtars, right? Like Eagles just going to like bang the shit at you.
No, not even close, dude. Like we fought Eagles multiple times with Ishtars, and we've lost. They always lose more than we lose. Period. End of story. Because you're shooting directly into the exact resist you're tanked against. So like you just win.
I'm not convinced by this, but I'm not going to argue with you on it. I will look it up. I don't think that you're right, but I'm not going to argue with you about it. My God, we spent like 20 minutes just chatting shit about like doctrine matchups.
Yeah, we're boring.
God, people watching this show must be so fucking bored by this. There's like,
I mean, there's still 119 people
don't
watching, which I
fucking
don't
care
know
about it.
fucking how.
I don't know, man.
Chat,
Who-
what do you think
let me
is
ask you
what do you think is a good topic to talk about? Since kind of
No, fuck that. Let me ask you this: who was the first FC on grid yesterday?
Obviously Dark Shines.
Dude, I don't know.
You know, from
Damn.
PAPI.
Was it Muskie?
Was it Muskie? Hey, Muskie,
I
you
don't
shit,
know.
motherfucker.
Literally, I'm just throwing names out. Was it Muskie?
Let me look at your guys' pings. Hold on.
This isn't trash talk. Relax.
Never not talk shit to PAPI though, and I hope he would never not talk shit to me.
Well, and Al Ferrari, like, he ditched on like Trash Talk Tuesday
I
last
did.
week, so he's like making up for it now.
I
I'm
didn't
sorry,
even
I was
show up.
sexing.
I didn't even show up.
Nah, it's all good, man.
I wanted to show up, but like I got distracted, dude.
I mean, like, people in the chat, like, feel free to like, make your opinions known in the chat. But I feel like there isn't really a lot of visibility for like just generally people who play the game on basically like the thought process of like high level null FCs or just generally people who know how the game works at like a big block level and big fleets and stuff. Like people don't really ever talk about it, right? Like it's not really like secret sauce, but people just generally like don't really feel like they should talk about it out loud. Like you feel like you're giving someone else like some knowledge, a secret or some shit, and it doesn't matter at all, right? But there's just not a lot of information and like stuff out there about this kind of thing. Like I don't know if it's interesting or not. Like maybe it is, maybe it's not. Feel free to tell us if it's not. But I feel like it's probably interesting to someone.
kind of what I think like is a good point is he's making is that like it kind of gives you guys insight on like how the people actually think that are basically leading you guys into death and victory, right? Like it kind of
right?
it kind of shows the where our thought process is and like how like kind of the brains work, right? I think is the biggest thing.
Yeah,
So,
that's kind of the point I was trying to get around to. You put it really, really well. yeah, a lot of people don't really see like the inside track of like how the thought process works and that stuff. So it's probably interesting to someone.
It is very
Eagles do
ADHD
10 therm damage, and Ishtars are basically resist on highest of those. Why do you think they won't win? So Shield Ishtars, right? And this is from a guy that literally runs Shield Ishtars all the time. I was implemented it as a doctrine for my coalition. It's kind of a hard dynamic to win, right? You can either really feed or really win. There's no in
Oh
between.
shit! Hey Muskie, what's up, dude?
Alter, I have
Muskie's
one
here.
thing to say. I
Yeah,
don't
what's
give
up,
a fuck.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You just came in straight up. What a douche.
Okay, Matani. Like, anyway,
Oh my god.
literally pulled a Matani right there.
He straight up pulled a Matani.
Yeah, that was a Matani all the way, dude. So like Ishtar's, like, yes, they are tanked against that, right? But it also brings up the point of once you're past a certain critical mass, right? And that's a critical mass conversation we were having earlier. Once you're past a certain critical mass, it doesn't matter what you're tanked against, you're gonna die. And the tank on Ishtars is significantly less than Eagles because of it only has two large shield extenders and a adaptive invuln field, and then it has an MWD.
And what are your low slots and high slots, just so I know, just for sake of this conversation? Yeah.
Well, Alterari, you'll never need to use it because like we're goon pet.
All
you're
you
right,
have
my
to do, all you have to do is hit up fucking in it. Like, we literally copied theirs.
Also, Alterari, I'm gonna have to like I know that I am in a position of pet versus master, but I'm gonna have to go out on a limb and say this. But you do realize though that even though Muskie just pulled a Matani, he has technically been crowned the pound for pound best FC in PAPI.
I heard
That's
he has
not
really
saying
nice
much.
caps, and I'm waiting to see his
Dude,
caps.
his legs are to die for. I don't care what anyone says.
I
Have you
haven't
his
seen
leg day
them.
routine?
No, I want to see them. Somebody
Just look
fucking
at the
send
routine.
me a
That'll
screenshot.
tell you everything you need to know. Muskie is the king of leg day, and I don't care what anyone says.
Okay. Can he squat 500 pounds?
I don't doubt it. He's fucking jacked, okay?
Muskie, we need to talk.
He's been carrying his entire coalition for the better part of almost 2 years. Of course he's jacked.
Chat about me again. Sorry, I went to the bathroom.
Damn.
Damn. Oh, not even called out. Just
Who are you
assuming
talking about?
Muskie.
Talking about Muskie for being jacked.
Oh, Muskie's fucking sick, dude. I love Muskie.
I mean,
I love chatting shit with Muskie because he's
He's,
the only person that can give it and take it.
Okay, so someone explain this to me
The
real quick,
only
right?
person.
Yeah.
Am I just not here?
Who are you?
I chat shit to Altari all the time, and he does the same thing to me. It's okay.
Ultra is probably my favorite FC out of all of Goons because he's like so good at like chat shit, but like also like he understands that it's just chat shit, right? It's just banter. Like he gets it. Like a lot of them don't really get it in the same way.
I'm not gonna lie though, I'm still salty you blocked me that one time.
no, Carmen, that's not.
I unblocked you, man.
Carmen, you're going against the narrative here. Okay, he's the enemy of Tess.
It's a fucking video game.
Right.
Stop using logic. A lot of people don't get this.
Video game. Dude.
I need you to stick with the narrative. You're in front of an audience right now, Carmen.
Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, right? Like, I've got some fucking pretty strong opinions about Goons as an organization and the people in the higher levels of leadership in that group. You know, like I've got some pretty fucking strong opinions about that, right? But it's a big group of literally thousands of people, and the vast majority of them are just normal people, right? They're just normal people. The issues are at the leadership level. That's where I have an issue with them, and that's where I believe most of the people from PAPI who went to war with them had an issue with Goons, and probably still do have an issue with Goons. But that doesn't stop you from just like chatting to the guy on the other side of the fence, right? Alterari's a fucking funny dude. Like he's a good guy to chat to. He's funny.
I don't
Like,
care
why
about
would you not
any of
chat
the
to him?
null
Appreciate that.
blocks. I don't care about any of the null blocks. I just want Eve to fracture into thousands of small alliances and just be hell war on everybody.
Well, lobby CCP to stop fucking the game mechanics up
Dude,
to the point
honestly.
where they genuinely, massively benefit you if you're in a bigger group.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, that's CCP. Like, welcome to CCP.
You want a game to be like smaller groups? Remove antiplexes.
This, to be honest.
Also, vote for Riker 514 for CSM.
Put jump fatigue back on jump regis.
Fuck that shit. Vote for me for CSM, man.
I've thought about running for CSM, then I realized it's just a glorified position that doesn't really do anything.
Vote for us both for CSM.
I mean, you could join the CSM and then go snowboarding.
Ooh.
Jesus Christ.
Damn.
Oh man, that's low. That's fucking low.
What? Like, it's
Damn.
Redline. Nobody would vote for you for the CSM. Okay, I just want to clarify that right now.
I would vote for Redline just to give
No,
him, like,
Redline is canceled. We went over this at the beginning of the show.
But he's canceled like a blown up Fortizar, right?
Can you imagine like the CSM poll results coming out and him just having one vote and it's him though? That's why I'd vote for him.
I mean, when the results came out, I had like 50 votes.
I mean, like I already know there's enough people going to vote for me. Like I'm gonna give my vote to Redline, man. Just a morale vote, you know. He's gonna feel better about it.
He's still talking about hating on white names on Discord.
See, yeah, Carmen, I totally forgot your name. You see, Carmen, but watch you do that, and then you lose, but Redline wins.
I'm fine with that, dude. It's a democratic process. If people don't want to vote for me, that's totally fine.
If XNMX ran for CSM, I'd vote for XNMX over all of you guys.
I'm just saying, you have a right to vote the way the state tells you to.
I forgot that I'm a pet.
There you go. Good boy.
I mean, like, jokes aside, I actually am going to try and run the CSM next year.
You have my vote, absolutely.
But what if the state says no, Alterari?
It's fine. At the same time, we do have hostiles on our ballots all the time. We want a diverse community in the CSM. Despite popular opinion, we want a diverse opinion set in the CSM. We want multiple perspectives. It's not just, we don't want just our no block all up there. Like, yeah, it's nice to have them, but we want diverse opinions because diverse opinions provided to CCP help them not fuck this game as hard as they already are.
And that's more important than ever right now. I mean, obviously, everyone has their own thoughts about people in big no-block alliances. You know, they only try to get people in the CSM who are going to represent their own interests, which honestly is true a bit. It has been very true in the past. It's probably still true now. But realistically, like more now than ever before, people are more interested in just providing like people on the CSM who can lobby effectively for good gameplay changes, because that is more important to every nullsec fucking alliance right now, to have the game be better than to have their own interests represented in the game. Because if the game is dead and no one plays it, it does not matter how fucking popular your alliance is.
I can almost guarantee you that this game is one bad change away from just like mass log offs and shit.
No,
like,
it's not. It's like long way away from that, right?
You kidding me, dude? Like, it's the game is shit already. Like, it doesn't need to get shittier.
Well, I'm telling you this from a quite informed perspective, which is also probably one of the main platforms I'm going to use to run for my CSM candidacy, right? Apart from having really good hot takes on how the game can be better, which I genuinely think is true, the thing that I can bring to the CSM, which no other CSM candidate has ever been able to bring to CCP, is that like I understand how making games works. Like in my job, in my real life, in my career, I am a game developer. I have like worked on massively successful games, and I've been doing it for like 15 years. Like I know how making games works from the inside because I've been doing it for a long time at the highest levels that there are to do.
I did not know that.
So I can call them on their bullshit. In CSM, right, I can call them on their bullshit because I fucking work at a games company.
See, I did not know that, and that would be a really good perspective to have from a feedback point. It would be great to have someone who actually does it for a living sitting there calling them on their bullshit.
Right, but it's not even like a little bit, right? Like the first game I ever worked on was on a front fucking cover of PlayStation magazine, fucking Xbox magazine, PC Gamer. Like I've worked on like big fucking games. Like I know how this shit works. I will call them on their shit.
I don't know. It would be beneficial for him to divulge which game he's worked on. That's just like
I'm absolutely not going to do that.
Yeah, that's just not something that that's essentially doxing himself, and that's just not something.
Yeah, that's what. I know it's like difficult to make that claim without like then backing up, but like I'm not going to fucking dox myself, right?
I'm just gonna throw out there that we tried that last We tried that last election in the CSM and it didn't work.
You tried what?
Both me and Maldavius ran on our
Maldavius
having
is an
experience-
indie developer.
that.
He does not fit the bill of a massive game director or
Well,
developer.
Either way, right? It's like one aspect of a thing that's useful. It's more useful for you to just understand how the game works, because clearly CCP doesn't.
Well, I also think that I mean, Carmen, you're a block FC, so that gives you another perspective that is valuable on the CSM. Whether you're on our side, the enemy side, or independent side, you're still a block FC. You have game dev experience. I mean, there's two really good things in your favor.
The thing is, right, I genuinely do not give a shit who benefits the most from these changes. Like, what I'm invested in is just making the game be less shit.
That'll never happen.
You can hope and dream, man. That's why I'm running.
Hopes and dreams only get you nowhere.
Thoughts and prayers, bro.
All right, I have to run and teach an FC class for new FCs. I will talk with you all later. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on, man.
What a nice guy.
I wouldn't go that far.
Thoughts and prayers, bro.
Anyway, I think our show is going to be about
Can we
wrapping up
make
pretty soon.
faction warfare more like a military RP simulator where you do drills on Thunderdome and fighting in plexes that work like AT arenas?
I'm sure that someone somewhere knows an alliance that can help that guy out. Someone hook him up.
Anyway, with that, do we have anything else that anyone wants to talk about?
What's going on with these snuff dreads and 4TAC H, BJK?
Oh, unfortunately for them, not an awful lot.
Are they still there?
They are still there. There is. I could do the count again here in a second, but there is still a lot of snuff unable to jump out of that system without losing their ships.
So I understand that not only is there snuff dreads there is also capital fusion dreads there as well. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Not only that, one of my favorite people that I came in contact with during the war, who used to be an FC in Horde, was Chaucer. If you know Chaucer.
Oh yeah. He's there.
So my understanding is that Chaucer is logged off in 4TAC H in a dread in his main character.
Well, what kind of person would use their main in a cap, right?
Well, I'm sure
What kind of fool would do that, right?
I'm sure you can tell us all about that, BJK.
Right, guys?
I can
there's quite a lot
hear
there.
the pain that you're trying to hide.
Share the story. Share the story, BJK. There are certainly people in like the chat watching the show who've not heard this story. I think this is one of the fucking funniest things that I've heard throughout the entire of World War B2. It's one of the funniest stories I've heard. Please share it with them.
My memory's dead foggy, so I.
Oh, come on, bro.
Oh man, having an Erebus and a Nyx logged off in M2 under bubbles for like 35 days plus however long 60 something in the end. Bad times.
So from my memory, at least, from what I understand of the story, and BJK, please correct me if I'm wrong on any of these points. Obviously, PAPI had a lot of Titans stuck in bubbles logged off in M2 for a long time. BJK had his main character logged off in a Titan in bubbles. I believe it was like a month or so, right? And then like after like a month or so, his character actually was it Horde or PL? You got kicked from your corp whilst you were logged off in M2?
Yes, I got kicked from Horde Vanguard for inactivity on
whilst he was logged off in M2 in his Titan.
Ugh.
I swear to God, man, that is like the funniest shit I've heard.
It's pretty wild. Like, I mean, obviously, still keeping activity up. I think I'd injected 2 alts to go from nothing into monitors, just to keep things going. Because obviously there's a lot of conflicts happening around that time as well.
Just the fact that you get kicked because your Titan's logged off in M2, and you get kicked for inactivity because you can't log in. It's just the fucking funniest thing ever. I'm so sorry.
I'm never going to be quiet over that, and I think I'll always have something against alliances that have like kind of paper pushers on the top level rather than Eve players. I know. That's always going to be my qualm there.
I genuinely mean this from like the very bottom of my heart, BJK. That's probably my favorite story from the entire war.
Man.
I mean, that's the thing with Horde. Like when you've got something that big, you need all those paper pushers, and a lot of them don't actually like use this thing called a brain. Like,
Yeah, when you've got that level of disconnect between people with power
I
and
mean,
responsibility.
that's
And
the problem with Horde. It's that like nobody like. So when I was in Horde, I would get pings and I would see people that I don't even know. Like, who the fuck is this guy? Which is like after after I was corpless and I was just like, I'm gonna leave Horde. I've got nothing here that I want or care about.
yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, the pilots there are fantastic. Like, there's a lot of really good people there. There's a lot of like, there's a lot of decent FCs, but it's for my qualm from what happened for the back of that was the people with the most power are
Oh
involved
yeah,
the least,
yeah.
and that's worrying.
It's a total upper leadership problem, and that's what's Horde's biggest downfall, and that's why you see so much turnover.
It's a topic that's quite close to my heart because I've quite recently sort of become part of a kind of upper leadership and test, right? Like it's not really been a thing that happened too long ago. It's still fairly new for me. So I'm still learning how this stuff works and navigating like the dumb mistakes and like how to not fuck up and that kind of stuff. And I genuinely think that it's like a mark of like when you know that you're like out there, like people who like become in leadership and they become aloof from the people they're supposed to be a part of leading, and then they just like don't ever speak to them and all this kind of stuff, right? You become very divorced from like what the player base is of like the groups that you're leading or just generally involved in. I see it a lot from like FCs too. Like FCs are generally at risk of this a lot. Like there's it's very very easy to become like segregated from like what the average player base is of the people that you're dealing with, especially like when you're like FCing too. Like when you become like FCing like large fleets and large groups of people, right? It kind of at some point like just becomes like a number. It's like, oh, I got a fleet of 150 people. That's fucking great, right? Like you're like doing the math like it's an RTS.
I mean,
And
Horde literally created a corp to segregate the FCs off from the rest of the members.
yeah, sure. I'm
Like,
certain I'm certain that it's a problem that every large group deals with, right? But like
but I
when
think Horde
when when
especially.
when you sit down and think about it and you're like, oh, I'm like I've seen a fleet of like 200 people, and then you consider if I was like at like a big like LAN event and I was like I've seen a fleet of 200 people who were like at their PCs in front and be like, holy fucking shit, that's a lot of people, right? But then when you're just playing a game online, just it's 200 people, like whatever, we got 200 dudes.
Yeah, and I think that's you could tell the fleet, the FCs who are acutely aware that there's so many hundred people listening to their instructions and going around. Like, there's a difference between those pilots and those who just look at it with numbers. Like, you could tell there are certain FCs who genuinely care about each individual person and making sure that each one of those players is enjoying the fight that's happening and making sure everyone's kind of recognized. Like, a lot of people will, if someone's not anchored, someone will call them out and be like, you need to do this, you need to do that. But there's other kinds of people that will look at people falling behind and remind them that they need to regroup. And even little things like that, hearing how FCs talk to the pilots is such a big thing. And I think that's why like some fleets will have a lot more in than others, because ultimately, yeah, sure, you're all flying together for the same objective. The outcome is a collective one. But why would I get involved with that if I don't feel like it's my time, right? It's my time to get involved and join that fleet. Do I think my time is better spent there, or should I ignore that ping and go crabbing? Like, there's a whole personable aspect to this that some pilots that if they just go straight into horde and ping again like 100 people on roam, they don't get. And I think those that have built themselves up kind of feel that biggest difference than anything else.
Like that in itself is like a whole topic on its own. Like how do you be a successful FC just on the social side of things, which is genuinely like a huge part of it. Like
Yeah.
if you want to be a successful FC, you basically need to approach it as if you're like a Twitch streamer in a lot of ways. Like part of your job is to be successful in what you're doing, but also like at least an equal size of it is that your job is to make that period of time entertaining and fun for the people who are in your fleet who are doing that stuff with you, even if it's shit.
Yeah, and you've got to remember this. There's people sat there. Like earlier on, when you're saying like at the end of the day, it's all a game, and people just like play a video game with each other. Like you can't have any bad blood against individual pilots within an individual group. You've got to keep those channels open and keep the conversation flowing. But if people feel like they're involved and feel like they're a part of it, and the person who's telling you to take the warps and shoot the targets, if they're aware of what's happening, you find those groups tend to thrive. So yeah, 100%. It's a social game, right? You will never
It's just
own.
it's a general concept of like basically being like an effective like leader in any group, which obviously like FCs do at a certain scale, and then when you're doing some kind of like level of alliance leadership, it's like a bigger scale kind of thing. Um, Basically, like people need to care about you. Like they need to like you. They need to think that you are. If you're just like in the ivory tower, just like dictating commands out to the masses, like I mean, it's certainly one style of things, but it's not really ever been my style of things to do, right? I tend to find that people resonate more to you and kind of trust and care about you more if you are like down there in the trenches with them. If you're one of the boys, like if you're shoulder to shoulder with the people out there doing stuff. Uh, if you're in a position of leadership in really any role, FCing being a great common example. Um, One of the things that you have to understand to become good at it, to have people like really want to follow you, you have to understand that they don't work for you, you work for them.
Yeah, 100%.
Like my job is that I'm working for my alliance to make sure that they are enjoying the game. I'm working to make sure that they are successful. Like I'm like all the time and effort I put into the game is all about like making sure that they are enjoying the game more than they would otherwise. But yeah, like that in itself is a huge topic that's possibly genuinely like hours long in a bunch of different areas if like we were really going to get into it.
Yeah, there's loads of different angles to dissect that.
Yeah, I mean it's a very generalized concept that is what is leadership in general, right? I mean, you could apply that to like running a company, running a sports team, running a fleet in Eve. Like it's just a concept of like management of people, and it's a universal concept that is massive, absolutely massive. There's like thousands of people who've like written books about it, thousands of people who've got different takes on it. No one is right. Everyone's just got to like work for what is the angle that works for them. Like what is the approach that works for you.
Yeah, I think that kind of translates directly into like the mindset of a person making sure they have X amount of pilots in fleet versus a person who knows they have X amount of tools within the fleet at their disposal. Is the difference between someone forming a Munin fleet and then someone forming like half a Munin fleet, but a wing of tackle or a wing of boosters or a wing of bombers, and using the same people but split into something that might be their individual strengths, and with the same numbered groups. Like a lot of people will only take a fight if they outnumber the enemy, and in the nullsec meta that very much has a place because bubbles, but that isn't always the best approach for that individual player because you're going to lose your Munin, and that's you done for the night because there's very very rare that there's just constant reships to get you back into the fight. So that's kind of touching on what was mentioned earlier about finally getting the chance to use battleships in Narvula, is that pilots could stick around for longer. And, it's sure we're going to be trading for most of the fight, but the pilots will be there for all of the fight. And the objective isn't specifically to trade. You have something else to do and the trading happens in between. So, yeah, I think, yeah.
That's totally like a valid viewpoint, and like honestly, like it's not really something that I've thought about for like a while, but it is totally true. And that's honestly like one of the saddest things about playing the game at like a kind of large null block FC level is that you're literally like playing an RTS. Like you are. There's no getting around it. That is literally how the game works when you're like a big null block FC. And even if you're consciously very aware that all of the people in your fleet are players playing the game, like big null fights, they're just not fun for people. There's no good argument you can make for pretty much anyone who's involved in these big fights. And I genuinely, to my very deepest part of my heart, believe this is true. The game is not fun for people to play that game on that level.
There are things you could do though. Like I'd counter that with like if you had a 10-man bomber fleet doing something, that's 10 individuals that could be very tight on comms that communicate with each other. They make something big work in that tie-dye fight. Like
Yeah,
we
well,
had like
the payback that you get from being involved in that kind of thing, right? And obviously, like, every time we form up a fleet, it's like a few hundred people. That's literally a few hundred people pressing F1 in a Moonin or an Eagle or a battleship, right? It's not. Just give that a minute to sink in. A few hundred people. The game's genuinely like not that fun for them, right? When the game is based around like trading ships, like in RTS fashion, which it is, that's how these fights work. The enjoyment and satisfaction and the gratification you get from being involved in that is not about playing the game, right? The game genuinely is not fun. It is not enjoyable as a game to do that. That's not what it's about. The reason that people still do it and the reason that people are still interested in being involved in it is because like they feel like they are doing their part to be part of a greater process, right? They're a small part of a bigger whole, and they are playing their part in a larger story that's happening within the game, right? That is what motivates them to do these shit things that are not fun in a game that sucks, is to play their small part and be involved in a larger story that's happening, and to be a part of the success of their tribe that they're a part of, right? That is literally why people go to these big fights. It's not fun. No one likes it. That's why.
I don't know if you can talk during the fight as it's happening and explain all the different moving parts. Like if it's dead on comms and the only thing you're looking at is your ship shooting, it's very very bland. But if you say right, we have this one pilot doing 3 void bombing bombers, they're going to just appear here in a second. Watch out for that, right? The impact of that is this portion of the fleet has no capacity anymore. If you can explain that, right, there's a tornado fleet warping in, they're going to be the perch this time, but next time they land, you're going to shoot this pilot, and this pilot, and this pilot. We've got like a 5-second window to hit them, then they're bouncing away again. Like if you can, as the FC, know what's happening around that grid, know what's happening outside of that system, and you relay everything to what's happening, and then try and keep it at least verbally engaging, then you'd have more like involved. So like sure, if you're micro focusing on what your modules on your ship are doing, then it's not going to be interesting. And the whole point of Eve is it's a story driven game that the content creators are making. If you can explain, like if you can tell that story as it's happening, if you can bring people into the fray, like even if like so if you lose a ship, if you drop off comms that night, that's you done. That's the end of your session of Eve. But if you could do something as interesting to hear, like if you lose your ship but you're still on comms because someone's explaining what's happening or they're streaming their screen or you can watch the fight on Twitch, you're engaging that community side of it, and that's what really drives it. So I guess that's the difference there between what's happening on the grid, what your individual modules are doing, and what is actually happening in the group as the bigger picture, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's like exactly why I'm saying, right? Um, the game in itself, on like a very purely simplistic mechanical level, for however many hundreds of people are just in a DPS ship pressing F1 during a big fight. There's some people saying like I'm a bit of it or something, which is like, yeah, I guess it's like a little bit true. But genuinely, if you go and compare the experience of like being in a DPS ship in a big fight in Eve to basically any other modern game that you could play at all, like it's a very one-sided comparison, right? And what you were saying, BJK, which is pretty much the same point I was making, the mechanical experience of playing a game is not fun, but it's not why people do it. People are there for the storyline. They're there to be a part of a bigger process, a bigger whole. They're there to be a part of the story. And if you are like an FC, a content creator, that's one of the things that is a thing that you have to learn to be good at to be an effective FC, right? Is to like build that story, to tell that story to the people who are in your fleet, to get them involved in it, to get them to buy in, to want to be a part of it.
Yeah, I think there was the story of Skill Yourself when they took on Triumvirate. They were sieging 3 things at once. They'd have their Rogue mains in one system, they'd have their carry alts in another system, then have their Titan alts in another system. So these individual plays were actually on 3 different grids at the same time doing 3 different things. So sure, the fight in the ropes is going to be pretty boring. Maybe the fight in the carries is pretty boring because they've just got fighters on a structure. But then the Titan alts that this is like 3 years ago now, so tracking Titans was still a thing. But they were all doing something. And I guess if you count the mechanical input as actions per minute, they were doing more things at the same time. Like I think there was one fight in World War B2 that most people were locked into one system, caging it down. And then Null Session had Serbs hitting an answer Blex, and then the Imperium were like, oh, we kind of need to go and do something about those. But they were just like snacking on people who just warped to the beacons and warped the answer Blexes. So during that fight, there was one group having a lot of fun while everybody else was not having fun, let's say, because they were locked in tie-dye. So if you can effectively manage your objectives, if you can effectively manage who's where doing what, I think that experience on the user end would be different. But that takes time to set up because you have SIGs for that. You can't just on voice comm say, oh, I need a couple of Serbs to go to this system and anchor up on my alt instead, and we're going to do this thing. It takes time to set up, and I think that's the blessing of having groups within groups.
Having structure to your enormously large group of people. I think a lot of people who play the game also don't really quite understand the scope and scale of like just how big nullsec groups really are. I mean, everyone knows they're really big, but like people don't really quite always have like the raw numbers in front of them. Just how fucking big they are is like, absolutely fucking obscene.
Yeah, and you don't always need all of them to secure your objective. You just need the tactics are enough to take on the other group.
But like
pretty wild.
when you're working with this kind of like size of group, you're effectively always working with like a percentage of what the max is, right? So like you know how big your group is, you can have an idea that if you really hype to get a big fleet, you're gonna get like a percentage of what like the amount of people is, right? And then you all that's also like one of the things which is very, very different about nullsec in ways which is good and also bad, but kind of mostly like I don't know. I don't even know really what I think about this. Right, it's a very conflicting topic for me. But when you are dealing with very, very large groups, you know, like nullsec obviously is characteristic of having people who like FC large groups of people. It's like a real normal human trait that when you get enough people together, a lot of them will do dumb shit and make a lot of mistakes, right? So one of the things that you always have to consciously keep in mind when you're running like a really, really big nullsec fleet is that there is like probably like 5 to 10% of your fleet who are just going to do the wrong thing all of the time. Like you're literally working with like the lowest. In some ways, you have to cater to and consider the lowest common denominator of what is available to you in that time and for that group, right?
I think part of that stems from if it's a really, really important ping and you send it out, you're going to have more people log in because if you're in nullsec, that's important to you. Like you feel a personal responsibility to maintain it and chase hostiles away. So you might have players who don't play as much getting involved.
It's just the nature of
that's
like
fine.
large numbers, though, right? Like
Yeah.
if you form a fleet of 200 people and you go and walk around like 15 gates and don't really do very much of anything, you'll probably still like lose a bunch of ships, and it'll all be to do with oh, there's one guy who's like had to go to the bathroom and like went AFK, ship died on a gate, right? Oh, there'd be one guy who's like a parent and then he had to like go and deal with like his kid or something. Like a lot of like very reasonable, normal, real reasons that someone might need to at short notice like go away from their PC or like divert their attention or something like that. Like realistically normal things you can't really argue with. But like when you have 200 people, that is a percentage factor that you have to take into account, and you can't be mad about it, right? Because this is like that's just people. That's just the way the world works.
I do fondly remember having losses in fleet when we don't even undock. That's exciting.
Dude, like if you unlock a fleet of 200 people and just go like 15 jumps in a circle and don't do anything and don't fight anyone, you'll probably still lose like 5% of your fleet, like every time.
Yeah.
That's
Honestly,
fine.
like that's totally the truth.
It is what it is, right?
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
is. That's the point I'm making, though, is that like that's like people don't really think about it, but like that's like a thing that you have to take into consideration when you're like like running a fleet of that size.
So we're actually starting to get to pretty much the end of our show. Real quick, I just want to thank the guests that we've had who have been here and have left. Special thanks to Carmen Gel as well as BJK for coming on such short notice, as well as Luke.
Alterari Phoenix as well was a fantastic guest today.
Yeah, it's always fun when Alterari comes on.
Oh god, I love Alterari so much.
And Muskie was here for a brief while as well.
Was he?
He dropped in to say, "I don't give a fuck," and then left.
I need to get some of the Horde FCs to come in here, like purely just to do their like British accent, like fakes sometime, like impersonations of British accents. I was listening to them last night. It was the funniest thing I've ever heard in my fucking life. I was crying tears of laughter.
Well, this D tier show could always use some more people to come on.
I'll bully them to come on next week. It is honest to God, like so funny. It's really, really good.
Please.
Thank you, BJK, for being around to have that chat. I thought that was really, really interesting, and hopefully some of the people in the chat who have listened to it thought it was interesting too. It's
No,
probably
too common. It's really interesting hearing the takes on the different what CCP thinks is content creation and what players are actually fighting over, and that completely I'm fully with you on the opinion that there's conflict drivers that aren't in the game anymore, and it's a shame to see them gone. And a lot of times it doesn't make sense to fight over certain things. But
I think it's just interesting. Like we got through quite a lot of different topics, and it's stuff that like I talk to other FCs about quite a lot, right? But it's stuff that people don't really talk about in public so much, you know? Like probably like on a Twitch TV show where people are listening to it. Like it's not really the kind of thing they maybe see too often or hear too often. So like it was interesting for me anyway because I just find it's an interesting topic to chat about. But hopefully it was quite interesting for these people too because it's not something that's often out like in the air quotes public domain so much.
yeah, there's always the questions: are we forming for this? If not, why not? So being able to hear,
Sure.
yeah, so that kind of like bringing it to the surface. They're like, oh, well, it actually genuinely isn't worth it. So
If it was a thing, I know that we had quite a long chat earlier on in the show about like doctrines and ships and like how you approach fights and like what's good against what's bad against what kind of thing. If that was a topic that Karama thought might be very interesting for other people, I'd be quite happy to come back and like do like a focused show on that or something. Just throwing ideas out there.
Let's do it.
Because that in itself is something that people don't really ever really hear very much about unless you're like involved in like the small microcosm of what it's like being an FC in Eve.
Well, if you're watching, you're enjoying the content, please remember to hit that follow, and if you're feeling extra special, hit that subscribe button. New Eden post streams Eve shit all throughout the week. And yeah, always remember, bubble wrap your Keepstars, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you